Looking at Bitcoin, let's zoom out to the weekly chart. Now here on Binance, we have the 100 and the 100 average is the white line, and the 50 is the 50 moving average. And it's interesting to note that they're both converging at this one level here, where the candle is closed right now, or where the candle is looking to close. And of course, it's 18th November, so the candle will close tomorrow. I think that it's because, especially because there's two of these. Well, there's a few reasons why I think we're going to have a small bounce here before probably seeing new lower lows. Let's have a look at the Bitfinex chart just to get some better perspective here and take out this. Right. So the 200 is all the way down here, 200 moving average. But you can see that we crossed the 21 bearish. First of all, we crossed the bearish. We tested it. That's not a good sign. But now we're at this point where we have this downward sloping diagonal resistance which gives us some support. We have this upward sloping diagonal resistance, which gives us some support. And we have the 50 and the 100 moving average. So, and of course we have a big volume profile here, a big volume climax. So I think that all in all, we are likely to see some sort of a bounce here before moving down. And honestly, there's nothing that says that we have to go down from here. This is a viable spot for a bounce. But of course, Bitcoin is maybe a little bit too unpredictable to assume that we really are going to bounce at this level. And of course, and I forgot that we also have the 618 fib, the golden zone here, right? So a lot of reasons to believe that this could be a bounce opportunity. And then whether or not it goes to new highs would be to be determined. But I think that there's enough confluence at this zone, certainly at this general zone, that we will see a bounce. Now, looking on the daily, things actually, they look quite bearish, but you know what very often happens because we broke the previous low with this wick, but we do have a wick pushing us up here. And now we have an inside bar on the daily and another inside bar forming. So these two, the break of these two inside bars will be determining where we head next. And I think that if we break them bearish, we have a very good chance to come down. But you know, do we come down and break through this? I don't think it's all that likely. Or if we do, it will be with a wick and then pushing right back up. But yeah, the next target I'm looking at below, if we break, is 6,650 over here. And after that, really, it's going to be around 6,000. So that's this sort of general zone. So 6,000 psychological. And then, of course, at the top of that volume profile here, where the 618, or the golden zone pretty much ends around here, right? So this is where I'd be, and of course also the previous low, we might form some sort of double bottom over there. So this is my target zone for another bounce. But on the flip side, I think that we have a good chance to reach, and this will be made more clear by looking at the 4-hour chart, but something like up there, with it all in red. And honestly, I think it's even possible that we see a slightly bigger bounce before we come down here, but we'll see. So on the daily, you can see, and again, another reason why we might expect a bounce is that we are oversold here on the daily. I mean, yeah, it's obviously not reason enough to just say that we're going to bounce. In fact, being oversold just means that we're in a bearish situation, and the oversold is not as extreme as it has been in the past. You know, we've reached much lower levels of being oversold, but you can see a lot of bounces at this sort of 26 over here, and then a little bit higher. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here. Although we went a little bit lower, so the daily is looking to create a lower high. Let's put it that way at the very least. So in other words, it's getting a little bit extreme, and I wouldn't be surprised if the daily does go up here. But it's really, we could very easily see another move down here before going up. But the point is that I think we're due for a pretty solid bounce, either here or after hitting this blue box. So I think that we'll be very likely to see sort of almost 8,000 level within the next week or two, based on either bouncing from here or from here. And yeah. Now if we go to the 4-hour time frame, see how things are looking. So here, of course, we had this absolute extreme 4-hour RSI here, which is why I entered like even more. I started entering already from all the way up here, actually. So not the greatest entry. And I should have had a stop loss somewhere along the way. Unfortunately, I didn't, so I was laddering in, and then we sort of had this candle wick down. And of course, I should have taken a stop loss there, but I didn't. In any case, I added some more to the position here, and I am looking to exit and the reason why was because, and the reason I didn't want to stop loss out when we broke this resistance was that this 4 hours was insanely oversold at 7 only, right? And so I just felt it would be very stupid to get a stop loss out there. And the other rationale I had was, well, I want to wait until the 4-hour cools off, at least comes to about the 30 level, which is exactly what has happened now. So, and also, of course, we're getting close to the 20 moving average here. I prefer to use the EMAs for the most part. It's pretty similar in any case. The 20 EMA is up there. I have the feeling that we're going to hit another spike up there before coming down, but really just to be safe. And I've already taken some profit on the position, well, at least profit from the entries down here. I took some profit up here on this potential resistance. You can see it more on the 1-hour time frame. But let's have a look at the 4-hour quickly before we go to the 1-hour. So the RSI, you can see we have this downward sloping sort of angle line over here. And yeah, we might, like I wouldn't be surprised if we come up to test this sort of, this resistance here before having another move down. And we can easily get to the 40 and still be very bearish. So nothing stopping us from getting up there. And now in terms of the MACD, we have a clear bullish crossover. Again, another sign that we might see a new 4-hour higher high before making another move down. We haven't even touched the 21 moving average, so I do think that we will come at the very least come sort of like this to it, but if not, having it even like a wick going up, or even maybe a close above the 21 before we have another major move down. And again, this is based on the fact that we have this weekly zone where this is we have the 50 and the 100 moving average. The golden zone is at the bottom of here. And of course, golden zone, 50 and 100 moving average, and these diagonal lines, right? So we're not exactly at them, to be fair, but I think this general zone, as I mentioned before, will lead to a bounce up to probably close to 8,000, maybe 750, before having, if we do have another bigger move down. And although this is a big box, I'm really looking much more in the top of this box for a potential bounce. Yeah. Okay, now on the 4-hour, I have this triangular structure forming. I'm going to go to the 1-hour. Maybe have a look at the price action here. So we have a big sell up here, the big volume climax, then a huge wick pushing us up, which is a very common reversal signal. And then we have another sort of big money candle here. Well, not really big money. There's barely any volume, to be fair. And then we resisted with a high, came down for a low. We have a lower high, and this might be a higher low. So this is a sort of consolidation that we're seeing here. And I saw this triangular structure forming, and I figured over here actually that we probably wouldn't break resistance. because, well, firstly, although this is a bullish structure that we haven't actually touched enough times on each sort of edge of the triangle, and I drew it sort of very large like this, and I had a stop loss above here. In other words, I would buy back in if we broke that. Now, I've bought back in some of the position down here. I'm still essentially managing my big long position from before, and I'm managing it by selling some there and then buying back if we cross there, or buying if we reach some attractive levels down here. So what I actually have is I have some buys here, 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 here from that position which I sold. And then, well, I'm going to play it by ear to see how we move from there, because I don't think that we're going to have another monster move down before the 4 hour really cools off a lot and reaches a 21 at the very least. Now, looking at the 1 hour, I think we can see a little bit more clearly that this is sort of where the triangle is forming. And yeah, as I say, I've made a small buyback here, and I'm going to see how we react to the price going up here. But if we come down, because I've sold a fairly large amount of my position up here, if we come down to lower levels, I'll be very happy to buy back at a better price. And if we break above this, then I'll have a very good entry level for the short on this part of my long position. Not really a short, it's just sort of selling some of the long position. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, well, let's have a look at Binance. So I also entered on Binance, and I entered, this was a bit unfortunate. I actually wanted to close. I got some position in, actually let's zoom out to the weekly as well. I like the Binance chart because there's no other exchanges which have Binance right now, or maybe there's one, but the volume is all over here, so you can really get a good idea of the chart. Of course, it's also on Bitcoin Binance, in other words, BNB BTC, but BNB USDT already gives us a good enough idea of what's going on here. So what did we see here? Here we had this sort of much steeper pullback, right? And we've already crossed the 618 here quite clearly already once. I mean, it was just below, and now we come again to test it. I was seeing a potential bounce up here at 17. It didn't happen, but that was fine. And then when I saw things start to get extreme, I wanted to get in on this at this level, this sort of 16 level. And let's just quickly have a look, do an analysis before we go down to all that. So you can see that we tested the 21, just like Bitcoin. We broke it bearish. The green, what the hell is the green line? Oh, this is the 50 moving average, right? I don't have my moving averages set up in the way I do on the other chart. Let's just verify. Yes, 50 should be in yellow. And then the 100 also we're testing. So actually we broke the 50 and the 21 moving average, which is quite bearish, and now we're testing the 100. And the 200, of course, isn't even visible yet because we don't have enough price action. That's fine. Now going to the daily, here we should see a 200. Yeah, so it's quite bearish. We're below all the moving averages, and the daily is just touched. It wasn't even as bearish as Bitcoin. Bitcoin was, I think, even a little bit lower than this. We saw somewhat of a bounce here, not really, to be honest. That wasn't really a bounce at all. And then here we saw certainly a bounce from this level, the 20 RSI. So not a lot to be said for hitting this RSI level at this point. It's looking, we have a bearish crossover here, of course, with a bearish change in momentum. You can see we broke this previous low and almost the one before it as well. So a clear downtrend. And the reason I bought was, well, partly because things were getting so extreme. I was really going just for a short-term bounce. And again, even here, I should have had a stop loss out. I was playing these lows, and it was very risky, and it's because things can really just go completely the wrong way. Now, fortunately, we have some new structure which is creating support at levels which I can sort of get out at without having too big of a loss. But it does seem as though this 14.3 level is an important one. We have this really extreme sell-up over here. The RSI now at 40. So, and touching the 21 moving average, and that's why I'm getting sort of itchy fingers for getting out of this position. Fortunately, my average is about 15.9 or so, and I already sold some over here. But oh, actually, I've sold even more now because I had some more up at these levels as well, I think. But I'm going to probably get out if we break 15.8, and then certainly if we break 14.9, I would have to get out of the rest. I'm really not sure if there's enough justification to stay in this Binance position. Oh, right, of course, this is another support that we had here. Yeah, that's right. So if we get rid of these moving averages for a second, just clear things up a bit. And 21 as well. So we had this downward sloping line, which we found support at, as well as supporting from this horizontal line. And what else? Yeah, pretty much those two. Of course, we have a bit of a volume bounce over here, but I think that was not so strong. Well, actually, it probably was already pretty notable beforehand. And yeah, so this 14.5 level has been pretty important. And here the inside bar on the daily is formed as well, and we're trying to break bullish out of it. So we'll see how that plays out. Still another 10 hours in the day. But I mean, similar to Bitcoin, I think it's just somewhat more likely that we see something of a bounce before coming down to new lows, just as for them to get a bit of a breather. And even then, new lows are not guaranteed and new highs are not guaranteed. But of course, things are going in favor of the bears. I saw this channel which formed with 2 touches there, several touches here. I was hoping for some sort of a bounce there. Fortunately, I didn't get into a position, but in any case, we did not bounce from there. I'm viewing this now as an important resistance, and of course, this, I'm going to take this out now. And this is also a resistance, so if we get towards these levels, I'll be taking profit on my position. And of course, I'm also interested in looking at the 21 moving average. We're pretty far from that, but again, I think it's very possible that we do get to that sort of level. Let's just zoom that out a bit. We're still within this channel. And it's interesting to note how this channel was created, because before this bounce from here, we had 1, 2, 3 touches here. We'd had just 1 touch there. So I created this channel, and indeed we stopped at exactly sort of this diagonal line. So that's somewhat less likely than not to not be a coincidence. And again, I think that this will present potentially future resistance if we come across it again. So in this area here. So I'm going to put a red box sort of over here. But it really depends on what the price action is leading up till there. If we just, in any case, no point in speculating too much. But overall, I do think that we'll see another bounce here before we come down. And this will be made pretty clear when the daily chart changes. And I'm not even sure about taking the stop loss out over here. I think I might just hold this position and wait to see it. Let's just have a look now. If we're going for a long position here, because anytime you're in a trade, it's good to consider, well, if I were in the long position from the place I am now, what would I do? And we're targeting sort of around that zone. We stop out here, it's 1.2 to 1. It's not really ideal, is it? But so I'd probably stop out. I honestly do not know yet. Do not know exactly, but really I would have to stop out. It'd be pretty much obligatory to stop out somewhere in this zone here. So yeah, that's what I would do. And I think there's more than a 50% chance that we do reach this, or at least slightly more, which would make this still a reasonable position to be entering now. So we'll see how that plays out. 50% chance, if it's 1 to 1, then you only need to be right just over 50% of the time. And so if I stop out some here and some here, then this trade will still be profitable. And that's it in a nutshell. I think I'm just going to wait, see how the price action plays out. Yeah, so in conclusion, I'm not going to stop out until I reach this 15 level. and I'm going to take some profit also on the way up over here. And yeah, it's a bit dodgy, because on the one hand I want to take profit sort of at these levels, on the other hand I'm stopping out so low over here. So I'm really going to keep most of the position so I can still take profit at higher levels to make this whole trade worth it from this perspective, from entering here. And that's pretty much it.